Hi, Carrie.
How you doing, Ann?
Good. Z Sisters Pickleball is going to have a conversation today about a topic we get asked about all the time. How do you play with a family member and get along and keep your relationship solid?
Well, it's not an easy thing to do. There's a lot of dynamics, but we can only reference our story. And we started on the tennis court when we were 9 and 11 years old. Our mom signed us up for tennis because she thought that would be an acceptable sport for girls to play, and that was in 1968. Now, fast forward to 2024. Girls are playing, women are playing, men are playing. Anybody who wants to play any sports gets to play. But we're going to try to unravel how it is to play with a family member, which is not an easy thing to do. On the other hand, it's the safest place to also play.
So, when you referenced our beginning tennis days, we never had a private lesson. You and I took every single lesson that we ever had that our parents bought us together.
Yeah.
So when people say, well, I want my kid to take a private, I said, well, I never had one. But the advantage is that we had a built-in practice partner. We heard the same information from our teaching pros, and we could go out and practice what we just learned, and also have the advantage of, since I was left-handed and you were right-handed, that we could do different things for each other on the practice court. So I think it was a great growing up advantage to have somebody who was a built-in practice partner who then became a lifelong doubles partner, and now in pickleball as well.
Exactly. And I think we basically learned how to compete when we were juniors, when we were, like I say, starting at 10 years old, going all through the junior ranks. And what I think we discovered there, Anne, is that our language on the court, which it would be either verbal or nonverbal, and that's, I think, a really important part of playing with a family partner. Is you don't necessarily have to be nice. You're a direct communicator, so there's no fluff in there. If you needed to do something or I needed to cover a shot, we would just say it. And yeah, there might have been a little bit of, angst or big sister Ann telling little sister Carrie what to do. But again, that those were our roles. So I think that the communication can be straightforward and really direct. And I think that's one way to show how a game can be played.
Well, it also shows too, we didn't get along every single minute. We did fight. We did fight when we were off the court, but we had to figure it out because we had two opponents who were not related most of the time. I can't even remember, just a handful of times that we played a pair of sisters. Mm-hmm. And what we had as an advantage is that we had each other's back and wanted our partner to succeed as much as we did. And so they might have just met during that tennis season or became new partners and did not have what we had built in over the years of really caring about your partner. So number one is you want your partner to succeed. Mm-hmm. That is the advantage of having a family member. Now, we are in close quarters because you can't say everything to that person. And you mentioned nonverbal.
The nonverbal, I think, is definitely key. We could just shoot each other a glance, and I would know by your dart of your eyes where were you were going to serve the ball, or we just pointed just that way, and I knew exactly what that meant. Or there was another signal from you when you were going to have your lefty serve. All you just do is that. And they didn't see that. I saw that. I know what was coming. So those are the kind of funny hand signals. That's the nonverbal for sure.
Well, the nonverbal, when Venus and Serena played doubles many, many times, they won many titles. They always had their hand covering their mouth so that the cameras, which we didn't have on us, wouldn't pick up their goals of what they were going to shoot for on that particular point or what they were going to try for in strategy. But it is a really a fun thing to play with your sister too, because then when you win, you get double the reward. Nobody is happier for you, and you can jump up and down together. And then you start to realize that, boy, this does take work though, because some days you don't feel like it. And some days you aren't playing well. And does your partner who's your sister or another family member get mad at you? They can't, because everybody has their ups and downs. The goal is not to be in that same state at the same time. So one person can not carry the other one, but hopefully you'll have those moments that you can work through it, and then your game rises again, because attitude is everything as well. All
Yeah,
right, so
I agree with that. If there's 4 players on the court, that means that you're playing doubles. It's either tennis or pickleball, and the the scenario that everybody's going to be playing their best game at that point is, that's a silly thing. But what you said is, when I'm in a dip, or I'm in a dive, or I've made 2 or 3 unforced errors, or I'm not quite getting it, whatever it means, then I know that you're going to be right there. And then as soon as I right the ship, then we're good to go. And then maybe I have your back, like you said.
So let's name some of the scenarios. We have sisters playing, brothers playing. You could have mixed partners, as we played doubles with our youngest brother, Mike, and would trade off, taking him back and forth between whatever tournaments were around.
Right.
You have parent with child, grandparents with that grandchild. The toughest one of all is, I guess you'd have uncles and aunts possibly, but I think the toughest one of all is what I call mixed troubles. And that is some kind of relationship, romantic relationship. So you have male, female often. It doesn't have to be, but it's one of those things that they can say anything at any time. And sometimes they do get a little angry, as I've seen when people are getting too close to exploding. The other person starts to, it's just a very weird dynamic when you're playing against a couple who's having an argument on the court.
Oh, it's very and it's very uncomfortable for everybody. Just like if they were having curse words at a cocktail party or whatever. But what I think it really does happen is that, set your goals beforehand. So let's say that there's a social event that you've gone down to the park, and it's a round robin, and there's really no winning or losing. Somebody wins, somebody loses, or it's a timed event. If you go into that scenario with, I just want to have fun outside. It's 5:30. I've done my work, and I just want to get some exercise. If that's truly the goal, then you've probably met it. Now here comes trouble when we have a tournament, or we have a outcome that we really, really want. And then that's when I think the miscommunication, the blame, all of those kind of things start happening. So if we were to set a goal, as we do often on a random Thursday night, when we have sons, we have aunts, we have partners, we have girlfriends, we have boyfriends coming out, and all we're doing is meeting, and we have 6 of us, and so what's the goal? So have 4 of us play and 2 of us sit? No. We change partners, we have fun. Everybody gets to sit out, everybody gets to maybe even film some silly shots. So that's the goal of our Thursday night pickleball.
We also have different generations.
Yeah.
So we're older than the generation that's younger than us. And so we're not going to have the agile movement of the 20 somethings. And we have to do everything in our power to earn a point. And in pickleball, when you can only do it on your serve, that makes it even tougher, because side outs are, a dime a dozen, hard to come by. So when we do that, then, and rotate partners around, all of a sudden our games elevate a little bit, because we don't have that opponent on the other side that is just going to squish us down by their power and speed. So it sort of equalizes things out again. And we just keep rotating. So I think you're right about that. That is really our time to let loose. We're not on the teaching court. We're not selling things on eBay or whatever the case is. We're just out there for recreation. And that would be called playtime. Now, because we're competitive people, we obviously want to win. But when we don't have that lined up before any event, it could be a club event, a local park event, and you sign up with somebody as your partner. Now, whether you're related to them or not, the goals do have to be stated, because one person is going to care more than the other. And they have different levels of competitive nature in them. And so sometimes when one isn't succeeding, that's when the anger starts. It really
Or,
is when you're losing.
that's a good point. Or the perception. Um, and so, what is the intent? Like we said, if you're asking somebody to win, then that's a lot of pressure. But if we can just figure out what my best shot is, what your best shot is, and then figure out their weaknesses over there on the other side, then at least we're talking strategy, and we're in the moment, and we're trying to figure out shot by shot almost, and then the winning happens, and it might not happen right away.
Not everybody has to hit every single shot perfectly. And
Exactly.
also, not everybody has to hit a strength and a weakness. You try to cover and hide your weaknesses and really exploit your opponent's weakness. And like you said, and to do your best shots. So if you and I on a tennis court, I had a good backhand, you had a good forehand, I had a good serve, you ran for the lobs, a good overhead smash. All of our shots combined together would have been, again, one great player.
Right.
We were complementary to each other. And that's what two partners, you might have one that's steadier and is very good at third shot drops and dinks in pickleball. The other one is a retriever and can run for everything. So everybody has their goal before you start, so that you really realize what are the shots that I'm going to be doing and what are the shots that you're going to be doing. And if there is an injury, I can't run today because I have a sore foot, or I really don't want to fall and I've been working on my feet all day. And so would you mind covering those balls? As long as you can acknowledge that kind of stuff, and it's not a weakness, it's actually a strength to admit that to your partner, not let your opponents know, and see what you can come up with together. Often it's the unexpected wins that actually mean more than the people that you think you're going to beat all the time. That doesn't have as much reward.
It's true. I was thinking when you were talking about it's not an excuse when you have some sort of injury or your doggy was at the vet all night long. I mean, that's what life is. But we come to the competition or even just the playtime saying that out loud. And it's not an excuse. And we're not using it as an excuse. We're just meeting our partner where they are. And then hopefully that's also going to start the relationship of truth telling. And that's what you need to be able to, I think, trust your partner wherever they are. And if you open the door and say, you know what, God, my hip's hurting a little bit, but I'm okay, but maybe you can cover it. Then hopefully, like I say, that unveiling of being vulnerable to somebody else and then telling the truth, I think that's a great start of a trusting relationship on any court.
So if you go for a shot and miss it, and I say, nice try, you almost had it, and then I can give you the green light, do that again. You'll make it eventually. You might not make it now. And sometimes it's one of those things that we are harder on ourselves when we're playing with a family member, because we want to do well in front of that family member, and then the reverse happens. So we've put this tremendous pressure on ourselves, especially if maybe our family member is a little better, that we have to hold up our end of the bargain every single time. And that's not true. I like to have people try for things at the beginning of a match, a pickleball game or a tennis match even, and then they'll work their way into figuring out what little adjustments need to be made if they've missed it. And that would go for maybe going for a down the line shot too often because the ball will go wide. Then we bring the ball back to the center of the court where the middle can't go wide. Between opponents, especially when they haven't played together very often, can be miscommunication by partners. And the encouraging words that you can say that you gave it a shot, good try, no worries, let's do it again. Keeping that positive energy between family members is very difficult because we are often quick to criticize not only ourselves, but then our partner, especially when we can have the freedom to talk sort of any way that we want. If we talk to them like we would strangers, I think the communication actually could be improved.
Well, there was one time I was playing with Mike, our brother Mike, and I don't know, might have been at the Nevada State Open in Reno, and we were playing mixed doubles, and Mike came up with 20-something double faults. And somehow we still won the match. Now we come off the court, we're just like going, what happened out there? And somebody asked if we were married. It's like, I mean, that's what we look like out there. So you can cut loose. And then there was another time, and Mike, I hope this is okay. This is just real stuff. We were playing a tennis match together, and I went back behind the baseline to talk to him, and he just put his hand out and he said, "Carrie, I need some space." Again, it's not, I did not take that personally. He needed space, and he was comfortable enough with me to just put that hand up, and I backed off. And then he righted himself within a point or so. So that's the kind of the nonverbal, or that's that shortcut, or that direct, where you can feel free enough with a family member without hurting their feelings. My feelings weren't hurt. I'm all, oh boy, okay, I'm staying away. Give them a little bit of time.
Well, that's where you have to be open with your partner that way. And I don't need somebody telling me every single minute how to correct my shot. That also doesn't help me at all. No matter what side of the coin you're on there, and we've all been there, that doesn't help anybody. The other one that sort of gets me as a comment that a partner will make is, I could have had that after I've missed a shot. Well, it didn't happen that way, and I went for it, and we'll never know, will we? But when they put that doubt in your mind that you might not hit that shot again, and they may want to, that does nothing to make a cohesive family partnership. And that can be very demeaning in front of the other opponents, when on the pickleball court, you're much closer in proximity to those people. It's not like in your tennis match, you were far apart, and they could still see your body language and maybe some short comments back and forth, instead of crossing together, changing sides, coming back up out of your rest, getting on the court together. I remember practicing that with you, Carrie, that we were always one unit. So one thing to remember with a family member is that you want to show a strong, united front. No one gets in the way of your relationship to try to talk to one or the other and make a criticism of your partner, number one, because that also can be, hey, we're playing with, these partners type of thing. You never let that happen. That's a very important one. And people don't know how to deal with that, because maybe they don't even know how to deal with that in regular life. But nothing gets in the way of family, number one.
Yes.
And on the court.
Well, and as you're saying, that nonverbal of walking off the court together, having that drink, and again, we don't have to be talking about anything. Okay, maybe this is a quiet time. Maybe I've just come off of 3 shots in a row that I can't believe I missed that. I'm probably seething right now. I don't want to talk. I don't want to hear anything. But just the fact that you were standing there, just the fact that you didn't rush back onto the court. So you're showing me nonverbally again that it's okay, that we're walking, and I learned this actually from Positive Coaching Alliance. We're simply walking shoulder to shoulder, and that's not in your face. If you're pointing your finger at somebody like this, I highly suggest don't do that.
Let's say you're talking to me, and my head is doing this,
right?
And 2 people were looking from the sidelines. They would see agreement.
Exactly.
If you're talking to me with that finger, like you said, and my head's doing this, that's non-agreement. We don't even have to hear what the conversation's about.
Right.
And so that can be a learned response that even if you aren't, you have to sort of take all these things in through experience. No one does it right perfectly at the beginning, but you can work on it and it can improve. And so saying nothing is probably better than saying anything at all. But a nice shot
also,
and encouragement.
And then this is where I just love to watch the Olympics and just how their different teams relate to each other. The volleyball players, win or lose a point, they just come together. They have a short touch, or they just have just a glance, and then they pop out. So it's actually, they've coined the phrase, we pop in and we pop out. And now that's where I'm going to reference our San Francisco 49ers. Right back in the day when Joe Montana was quarterback, or Steve Young, they would get into that huddle, and then all of a sudden they would pop out of the huddle, and that's actually called a pop out. And we teach our juniors that on the tennis court. Why not have fun with that on the court with our families? And then everybody gets really silly, and then they pop out and twirl, and they pop out and do whatever, almost a cartwheel. That's where just that fun or that smile or that just silliness, we can also be silly with our families.
Well, I'll tell you what can drive opponents crazy. And this isn't an in-your-face thing, but let's just say that you make an ATP. And we know, Carrie, that you live for that shot. That is your why in playing pickleball.
That's my dance.
You do your little dance. We acknowledge that together. We have to act happy. Otherwise, we're playing what I call funeral pickleball, and that just doesn't do it for me at all. Somebody makes a good shot, any of the four people, everyone should celebrate if it's an ATP, and it's especially in rec play. If somebody has done something that they have never done, and you're going to know enough about your opponents most of the time to say, that's the first time that I've ever done it. When I did my 3 or 4 Ernies that I've done, every single time I was counting them, I had my hands raised. It was myself, pride in myself that I made the shot that I was going for. And so that could be a particular type of serve. That can be returning a smash that nobody thinks you're going to get back, or just hitting the most unlikely shot. We need to celebrate that and actually act happy. That can be contagious for your partners too, because they may be the one that isn't in the driver's seat, so to speak. So when you say, well, older sister Anne, younger sister Carrie, now I use team captain and just the rest of the team. So, and the reason that is because somebody's also going to have maybe a few more ideas about things. Another person may not actually be very talkative on the court. And so I find that when I play with a less experienced family member, for example, I'm going to encourage them because I have nieces and nephews that aren't as experienced. And I'm trying to just give them the okay that anything is fine. If you hit it over, it was great. It's over the net. That's absolutely great. So all of a sudden they've dropped their shoulders and their angst, and they are just feeling a little more positive because we are trying to have fun with words of encouragement, maybe a little dance move together or a special tap. And when the opponents see that, especially if they know you are related, they will be a little threatened by it. And again, this is not in your face. This is just to say, have fun because this is a game.
It is.
And you'll see the top players show that automatically.
And then we are having fun. And that is the stated goal. Oh, we're going to play together to have fun. Yeah. Okay. It sounds a little contrived. Didn't do that. But
we got this, and you're down 1-9. We got this. Now that is a filler, and it can turn around. It most likely won't, but sometimes it's fake it till you make it.
Right.
And not to look like anything is bothering you does also destroy the opponents. If you're losing by 9-1, and the chances are that you're going to lose that game, how do you still represent yourself in a positive way that it isn't getting you? It might be getting your goat big time, but it's a little bit fake it till you make it. That game could soon be over, but don't look like a bad sport because people are watching. I don't care what the generation is, especially with grandparents and grandkids, or it's just any family member. You want to hold respect for the person you're playing with and your opponents as well, to be able to, try your hardest and say, you got me this time, but I'm coming back after you next time. So you haven't given up. It shows that you're just going to wait for the next game to do it.
Well, for sure. And that's where, again, I'll reference the Positive Coaching Alliance is we're honoring the game of pickleball. I mean, it's a crazy fun game. And by calling the ball out when the ball is out, that's part of the rule. That's how you honor the game. This do-over thing, just because we're together, let's have a do-over on Monopoly. No. Shoots and ladders. I mean, there's no do-overs. Somebody wins and somebody loses. Right? What's that?
Yeah, any card game. It doesn't matter. I got the wrong card, so let's do it over. No, and in fact, I think it will take pressure off of what is do-over and what isn't do-over. If a ball rolls through the court, okay, that is a do-over.
Right.
If the wind is blowing, that is not a do-over. If the sun was in my eyes or the lights at night were in my eyes, that is not a do-over. If there is a blemish on the court, aim for it. It's not a do-over. It's switching sides and getting to know what your playing field is.
Right.
Do they do it over or did they do it over when Barry Bonds was hitting things into McCovey Cove from the Giants baseball days? No, the ballpark was built for him. He
Right.
was left-handed. He stood at the plate and had the shortest distance to get the ball in there. And so very few right-handers hit that home run. They built the park for him.
Right.
So that's not a do-over because the wind is blowing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Those kind of things in sports are just realistic. People have to learn how to play the rules. And those same people who are playing, and we're getting away from the family part, but a game in rec, then all of a sudden have to face real rules when it's a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're serving out a sequence or there's another acknowledgments of things that are, rule breakers, we have to play by those rules. And then you learn the next time calling the score out correctly or whatever it is.
There's another take on this is, all right, when we were kids and we we'll go down to the park and we don't have any bases, right? And we've got about 6, 7 kids from the cul-de-sac or from our school. So how would we make those bases? The first home base would be somebody's old catcher's mitt. First base would be a sweatshirt. Second base would be an old shoe. I mean, that's how we invented the game. And then we negotiated the rules with where the lines were,
the boundaries.
and then the boundaries, and then we officiated the game. And sometimes the game would get over too fast, and it was the teams were not fair. So it's like, okay, all right, let's trade some players out, and that's where you can negotiate with your family members or your friends to prolong the game to make it better. And then if you're bringing somebody else in that really has never played, then give them a second serve. And that's not part of the rules, but that's in order to play the point to get it started. So that's also the space between competition and play. You want to be able to negotiate the rules that everybody is going to be at least hitting the ball and getting the rally going. So we can take in, and that is often what I see in the family thing. We really love pickleball, but that person over there in the family's never played, and they're afraid. Well, bring them on in and give them 2 serves. I see.
Well, they step in the kitchen just for today only,
Right.
or whatever it is. We'll look the other way, and pretty soon they'll understand. On the court yesterday, I was giving a doubles lesson, and we were hunting for the high balls, and we were looking for some put away action at the non-volley zone line. And my partner who's part of the lesson, she kept hitting winners, but then she stepped into the kitchen. So I said, I'm so glad that you made that shot. But now we're going to look at it this generally. If you take that step again, you've just stepped off the cliff and you're at the Grand Canyon. And so we laughed about that I said, so what we're going to have to do now is glue your feet. I mean, and those little examples of sort of the fun words of, instead of saying you broke the rule, you can't play, you're a loser. No, we made it a fun thing so that then there's imagery involved. And we've also shared that too, Carrie, on the court. One of the best things we've ever done through our one of the most fun things we've ever done when we've played tennis or practiced pickleball as well is the very final point before we have to end play. We call the $1 million point.
Right.
We have a video with that, and we're going to do another one too because it's so fun. So when we play rec play, the 2 teams or 2 courts are competing in the same time frame. One team is done, and the other team says, okay, we're about to be finished too. We're going to play 1 point for everything. And when you put $1 million on it, which is fake and not real, but it sort of gives you this excitement that something big can happen, that there's a chance that I could win $1 million. I'd probably have better luck than the lottery. So we play the $1 million point. And at first the people were sort of turning their heads and says, what are you doing that for? We said, because it's fun. Pretty soon the naysayers were calling $1 million point. And I knew that we succeeded because the new people would learn from everybody else. And we just added an element of fun, another layer that made it fun to actually end playing together. And then we tap paddles because, I got the $1 million this time, but bring it back and we can play for it again next time.
Well, and to add on to that, so somebody's winning and somebody's losing. And then you can say out loud, okay, whoever wins this $1 million actually does win. Yeah, but we're ahead by 4. It's like, okay, so this last point is worth 4 points and $1 million. So the people who have been losing this entire time get
Have
the
a chance.
opportunity to win, and all of a sudden their energy goes up. That's another fun way to end that. It's all even though, even though it hasn't been even. And then the people who are winning, it's like, well, that's not fair. It's like, well, then you have to step on the gas and you have to win this game. So there's a different pressurized situation on both sides of the court that can really be exciting, really fun.
For fun, and absolutely for that reason too. And you're right about energizing everybody, because everyone then thinks that they have a chance at that moment, and you do. One shot to win the whole thing, 1 point to win the whole thing. Why not? Why
Right.
not?
Yeah.
Well, so I would say, just to recap, if you're playing with a family member, you want to make this a very safe place for them, environment-wise. They're not going to be yelled at. You're not going to yell at them, or any combination of relationship, whether it's, two sisters playing together, as we have for all these many years. We haven't figured out the pickleball together as much as we had with tennis, but we have many more years on the tennis court than we do pickleball court together. We know what we'd like to do, and sometimes that doesn't happen as easily in pickleball, because the variables of the ball, which is wiffle ball, and the hard object that you're hitting, no strings, with the pickleball paddle, it makes it crazy with all the different elements included. So there's no do-overs, but we don't want to have the feeling like anybody's going to make fun of us or criticize us. So
Right.
number one, you want to make it a safe place. Number two, if you are playing with a better player, you just acknowledge of what you can do and what you can't do, and they will have to figure out how to help you. Sometimes it's, I'll cover the lob, or when the ball is in the middle, I'll take it. All those things will start to get them into the flavor of what you're providing for them by showing the way. So with two different level partners in the family, that's another one. The most difficult of all, I believe, is the relationship couple. Two married people or in a relationship in some way. They feel very often it's mixed troubles. And that's all I can say, is that there is words that come out quickly that are demeaning or not fun for them. So then they may decide that maybe we shouldn't play together, which is a shame, just because we could sort of learn some of these things and make it so that it's possible to be on the court together.
Yeah, and I agree. On the other hand, it's okay to say, you know what, this isn't really something I want to do with you. Let's go do something else. Let's go take a walk. And that's our me time together. And again, when there are curse words said within a family, then the apology is right there and it's accepted. And then we go on. So that's also modeling your relationship, and everything isn't perfect, but people misbehave. Okay, let's say it, acknowledge it, and move on. And that's then we get to play the next time together.
And I've had a couple instances this past summer where I wasn't the best sport, and I didn't like myself after that, but I did talk about it. And on those occasions too, I said, okay, this is probably just a little bit hot topic for me. So I have to be able to bring down my expectation of what I want from my own game also. Because if you're rusty or you haven't been playing, you can't expect to pick up where you left off when you start back on the court. So there's all sorts of variables. Playing in a new location, trying to show your partner that you're, doing as well as you can, maybe even after a set of lessons, and the game doesn't come out. It doesn't show itself, yes, because you're probably putting too much pressure on yourself. So you want to find that safe environment. Think about how your body language and your nonverbal communication is. Are you sticking together? That's key. And to be very encouraging. That's another thing. So it's not impossible to play with your family members. Carrie and I have stuck together for all these years, and we've had some great successes and some losses that were devastating, but we had each other to say, that's okay. We'll try harder and we'll get them next time. Or it just comes down to a couple of points here and there. And that loss is shared with somebody. Right. So you don't have to shoulder it your own. There is one time that Carrie and I were playing we sort of misread the clock. I think we were playing in the East. We're in California right now. And so by the time we got on the court, we had an 8 o'clock start time, but we didn't realize it was going to be 3 hours ahead. So we would be playing in our bodies at 5 o'clock in the morning, though it was 8 o'clock in the East. We get there, we were just not warmed up, all those things, not an excuse. We didn't have enough time to prepare. We misread the clock. We get off the court after a loss. Carrie decides to walk home through the golf course where the alligators were and says, do not walk on the grass because the alligators are here. But she was mad. We did not win. I was not happy either. So we split apart, cooled down. But as the longer it took her to get back to our hotel, the more I felt like she was eaten by the alligator. So luckily she wasn't, and she's here. But those moments too, sometimes you have to, as we said earlier, take a break, split apart, cool down, and then come back together and talk and say, maybe we should have allowed more time for that match, and maybe the outcome would have been different. But we did put ourselves in a little bit of a tough bind by expecting to play 5 a.m. tennis. That's just not going to happen for us.
Right. So, I mean, those are all experiences. And, if you're, if there's traffic, just go ahead and get the group text and say 15 minutes late. It's not going to be a big deal. Everybody just go ahead and get started. And then I'll walk on and I'll sit out for one round. I mean, those are the kind of things that you can say to a family member, and nobody's going to be upset with you. They shouldn't be. And if they are, then okay, they're upset. It's really their problem. So,
all right, I'm going to give you one bonus tip. Yeah. If you want a fun family birthday party, throw a pickleball party. Carrie's had a couple of those for her birthday, which is coming up by Labor Day, and all ages, all levels in our family. And we had a mixed bag of people having played, not having played, but everybody got onto the court, and we mixed partners all the time, and it couldn't have gone better. It was so fun because everyone had their own style, and everyone was giggling and hitting silly shots and serious shots. And so I think that can be a really fun group activity for all levels, because kids can play, all ages can play, and it doesn't have to be so serious. It's a fun way to celebrate someone's birthday with a big family.
Yeah, and you don't even have to keep score. You can just have you can have rallies. You can have silly shots. Step into the kitchen. I mean, those are the kind of things. Like I said earlier, when we were kids, we would invent the rules that everybody was being successful and everybody was included. And we weren't thinking that when we were kids. We just wanted to play. We just wanted to play longer. So if you just want to play long and or for a short amount of time, you play and you invent those rules, like Ann says, that everybody's safe, and hopefully you're going to walk away wanting to play the game of pickleball one more time.
So there's no throwing the paddle down and saying, I hate this game. You have to give it a try, take a break, go get some lemonade, come back on the court refreshed and willing to try again. Maybe you actually should change hands. Try with the other hand. It can't be any worse, right?
Right.
If you go into it with a good attitude. So I hope we've answered the question of how you go about doing this. If we haven't, please leave a question in the comment below, and we'd love to address any particular situations that you have. We've probably been through most of those things ourselves, and if not, we've probably seen it as teaching pros and coaches. So It's possible to play with your family member. It doesn't seem like it's too difficult if you follow just a few basic, human rules, and being kind and being supportive is the top of the list.
There you go. Because you probably will end up driving home with them, seeing them in the house, passing them in the hallway, or maybe at the next family function. So those are also things to keep in mind.
All right. Great conversation, Carrie. We'll be looking forward to a new conversation in the next month.
All right. Sounds good, Ann. All right. Pickle on.
And don't forget to subscribe and hit like. We need you. Our channel is growing. Please join us at Z Sisters Pickleball. Until next time.
Next time. Bye.